Happy Tuesday, everyone. Josh, the severe weather. We have a major storm heading towards the East Coast tomorrow, and that is going to bring some very strong winds to the eastern seaboard, in particular New England, as well as very heavy rain, a little bit of severe weather, and then much colder weather with snow returning to some of the typical lake effect areas as well as the mountains of the east. And if that weren't enough, we've got strong winds impacting Southern California with Santa Ana's producing some wind gusts close to hurricane force as well today. So we're getting blasted on both coasts here over the next 24 hours. The good news is that things do quiet down later this week. So I'm going to talk about what's to come in the coming days. So I appreciate you all joining me here. Massive East Coast storm. This is going to head from the southeast all the way up the eastern seaboard into Canada. It's going to send some very warm air up the coast with it, as well as some very strong winds. Behind it, it turns quite a bit colder here, a bit of a shock coming as that cold air blasts in, but the weather pattern is going to stay active here behind this storm into the next coming weeks. You take a look at the temperatures right now, you can see cold air is still struggling to leave New England, but it is finally warming up across the mid-Atlantic states where many of us are in the 50s and even 60s. And it's pretty warm across the southeast right now, 70s and 80s from Louisiana over into South Georgia. But the cold air lurks here. You can see temperatures this afternoon are plummeting south and eastward here, down into the 40s in North Texas, 30s in the Midwest, and even some teens and 20s across the upper Midwest. So the cold air returns here after a brief stretch of very mild air in place. You can see on our water vapor image right now, powerful storm system. You can see the trough digging southward here on the water vapor. That's this big dig here, and moisture out ahead of it moves up the East Coast, but the cold air will quickly replace it. In the west, we have extreme dryness here that's dropping down into Southern California, so we do have a strong offshore flow impacting Southern Cal and northwestern Mexico as well. But that will eventually shut down here tomorrow, and our next storm system will be heading into the Pacific Northwest Thursday with active weather returning after a quiet stretch there in the Northwest. Here's a look at our hazards map. And you can see right now some pretty colors, but that doesn't necessarily mean good weather, unfortunately. So I'll circle the areas of greatest concern. We've got excessive fire danger here across Southern California. We have excessive winds expected tomorrow across coastal New England, a winter storm or winter weather advisory across northern New England, flash flood watch back across Vermont down to Connecticut, flash flood watch here across parts of the southeast. And we have lake effect snow coming again to parts of Michigan and northern Wisconsin, as well as portions of the eastern Great Lakes. And we do have a little bit of snow potential over parts of the northern Rockies and High Plains as well. So enjoy it while it's somewhat quiet. It's about to get extremely active here. And I do want to touch on this extremely critical fire danger in Southern Cal due to the Santa Anas that we've had so far today. They will let up overnight into early tomorrow, as conditions still are going to be very rough here for fires to form due to very strong winds. In fact, wind gusts may get as high as 80 miles per hour during the day on Tuesday and then should gradually taper off tonight. But the humidity stays pretty low here, so things will still be extremely critical over portions of LA County and Ventura County as well. And also critical conditions all the way down into the San Diego area and into the Inland Empire as well. And you can see those winds getting very strong here this morning and continuing into the afternoon, but eventually letting up as high as 76 miles per hour, according to the NAM model, especially here across the Santa Ana mountain range, as well as the mountains to the east of San Diego. So dangerous conditions there with very low humidity, but things should improve gradually. On the East Coast, it's about to get much worse, though. After a quiet day today, we see winds ramping up overnight across the mid-Atlantic states, and then overnight and into tomorrow morning, farther up the East Coast into Long Island. And then tomorrow afternoon across coastal New England, the winds really get strong. And I'm going to zoom in to show these to you here in just a little bit. First, I want to zoom in on the Northeast. You'll see winds start picking up overnight across upstate New York, and by morning across the Jersey Shore, the Delmarva, and the coastal Northeast, getting worse across Atlantic Canada and Maine as we get to the afternoon, and then winds will be at their peak strength here during the overnight hours tomorrow night between about 10 o'clock and about 3 in the morning. Here's a look at how these wind gusts are going to progress. So not too bad here this afternoon, but heading into tonight, winds do start to pick up across South Jersey and then overnight across Long Island. And then tomorrow morning, we could see wind gusts over 40 miles per hour across coastal sections. By the afternoon, those winds continue to ramp up to 57 miles per hour on Cape Cod, 52 in Providence, Rhode Island, 50 miles per hour in Brentwood, more across the Hamptons. And then in the afternoon, we'll see wind gusts widespread over 50 miles per hour. You can see where our front is all these winds will be basically just in advance of the cold front. They'll be out of the south. Behind the front, we have an offshore wind flow, so that's going to change things abruptly here in the evening hours. But we could have wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour in Brentwood, and eventually up to 61 to 62 miles per hour in Boston tomorrow night. Cape Cod could see wind gusts over 74 miles per hour. In fact, and that's Barnstable here. If you go out on the Cape, you can actually see those wind gusts could get up to as high as about 85 miles per hour around midnight tomorrow night as our front is approaching. Behind the front, the winds are still gusty, but not as strong, and the wind direction is going to shift to a more westerly or even northwesterly wind direction after that. It'll take a little bit longer to get these winds up into New England, but they are coming for sure. As you can see in Maine, it gets windy in the afternoon tomorrow, and down East Maine gets strong winds here around dusk, 59 mile per hour gusts in Portland before dark, and then up to 68 miles per hour around Lewiston and Portland around 10 o'clock tomorrow night. You can see as well, eastern Maine and into New Brunswick will have wind gusts over 65 miles per hour, and around Bar Harbor and the islands here, maybe on Cadillac Mountain, we could see gusts that are even more extreme, over 80 miles per hour to even 85 miles per hour. So a very rough night expected tomorrow night, but the winds are going to die down after that. Now, I do want to show you areas farther to the south. Will be windy, but not nearly as windy. In fact, the mountains are going to avoid the strongest winds this time, unlike the last system, but we still do have some stronger wind potential tomorrow afternoon here, 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts expected. And then looking farther down into the Gulf states, it will be windy across the northern Gulf. Florida will have wind gusts over 35 miles per hour tomorrow, mainly north of Interstate 4. Do expect some strong winds as well across the coastal Carolinas, 45 to 55 mile per hour wind gusts higher across the Outer Banks. Let's take a look at precipitation here first. And you can see it's still a little bit gross across New England, but temperatures are warming up, and our rain that is falling tonight is primarily going to be liquid. Actually, it's all going to be liquid, but it will still freeze on surfaces in the area circled here in pink. So it's raining, but temperatures near the ground remain just below freezing. So we are going to continue to have some frozen precipitation, some ice on the ground here. And this is going to be about 2 in the morning here on Wednesday. So we do definitely have that threat overnight for icy surfaces to continue. By tomorrow morning, for the most part, we see pretty much temperatures recover past freezing, but the rain picks up and it will come down very hard. And then in the afternoon, we're going to see gusty winds, maybe some thunderstorms in here and some damaging winds with the actual rain, not just with the front. And then as it turns colder behind the front, a quick switch back to snow in the afternoon in western PA, and then in the evening in eastern PA, upstate New York, and eventually across the the upper Hudson Valley up to Lake Champlain, eventually the St. Lawrence Valley as well. Thursday will be a mainly dry, cold day here, at least a chillier day. With lake effect snow cranking up here by morning on Thursday and continuing Thursday afternoon and Thursday night. Here's a look at our potential for rain to be pretty significant across this region. Most of you are going to see about an inch of rain. Some could see as much as 3 or even 4 inches. And there is a flood watch, as I had shown you before here, across this portion of New England. So we could see mountainous areas that get more than that. In fact, we could see a few spots getting to as high as 10 inches. That's going to be a very isolated amount of folks that actually get that much rain. But in the higher elevations, that is going to be a possibility here from this next storm. Snowfall here, this is not really the big story, at least certainly not ahead of the system. But behind it, we are going to see a few inches of accumulation through Thursday morning, generally 1 to 3 inches. But of course, the lake effect and mountain favored areas are going to see a lot more, especially during the day on Thursday. Here's a look at frozen precipitation tonight mainly. St. Lawrence Valley, we could see up to a ½ inch of freezing rain. Of course, you can see that 1.6 down there, probably overdone. But we will also see some ice on the mountains here of New England during the overnight hours and even during the first portion of the day tomorrow. There will also be a potential for a little bit of sleet here, but we're talking primarily freezing rain at this point. All right, looking back across the Midwest, we are going to see just some rain showers moving out. Then snow picks up overnight tonight in Michigan and the upper Midwest. Another disturbance, you can kind of see it moving down here. That's going to track southeast. The cold air does catch up to the moisture here in eastern Ohio, all the way down into East Tennessee. And so by morning, we are likely to see a little bit of snow on the ground for some of us here as this system pivots through. And tomorrow evening, our best chance for accumulation is across Michigan and eastern Ohio. After that, things relatively are quieter for Thursday. We still have lake effect bands and maybe a few flurries, but the majority of our storm will be out of here by then. And here's what we're looking at snow potential wise. It's not a lot outside of the lake effect areas, but generally speaking, you can see amounts less than an inch, except in the mountains and in the lake favored areas here. A closer look at Ohio and southeast Michigan shows us not much falls here, but we could see up to an inch on the ground tomorrow, mainly on the grass. Higher amounts across West Virginia. You can see here as the storm comes up in Western Virginia, far eastern Kentucky, even up to Charleston, Bridgeport, Clarksburg, Morgantown. This area here, we've got to watch for some trickier conditions in the afternoon tomorrow. Maybe a quick couple of inches of snow falls as temperatures crash. So that's something to keep in mind. The roads could ice up pretty quickly here tomorrow afternoon in the wake of the cold front as it is snowing, and then a little bit more snow behind that here overnight tomorrow night. Farther to the south and west, not a big deal here, but we could see a little snow in Tennessee, even into the mountains in North Georgia and into the Smoky Mountain range here as well. A couple of inches of snow will be possible, more on the higher elevations. But you can see there's even a potential to see just a small amount over central Illinois and central Indiana during the day tomorrow. So we're going to keep track of that. Again, not a big deal, I don't think. The other part of the system is the threat for some strong winds and maybe even an isolated tornado later today into tonight. Mainly central Alabama into western Georgia, but all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Marginal risk, even a slight risk. And then tomorrow, this area clears out. Florida could see a few thunderstorms, but our main threat for damaging wind will be from the North Carolina coast all the way up the eastern seaboard into southern New England. And a lot of this is going to be rain that has gusty winds with it. There could certainly be lightning strikes. I don't think we're talking a big threat for tornadoes. If you take a look at the NAM model, you can kind of see how this all plays out. It's going to be multiple bands of rain moving slowly through tonight. And then tomorrow, we're going to see the heaviest of rain here along and just ahead of our front. You can kind of see where the front's going to be here at lunchtime tomorrow, kind of right in here. But just ahead of it, we do have a little bit of instability, so we do need to be on the lookout for maybe some brief severe weather. I don't think this is a big outbreak by any means, but something we need to watch. You can see that that line gets a little bit more robust as it moves through eastern North Carolina and southeastern Virginia tomorrow afternoon, just before sunset, and then moves off the coast in the evening. After that, pretty quiet weather for Thursday and even into Friday across the majority of the southeast. Tornado potential, just something we're going to monitor at this point. I don't really think we see a lot of tornadoes. Parameters are not super high, but you can see there's certainly a little bit on the models showing up here, especially for the Outer Banks tomorrow late in the afternoon, but it's going to be a very small window for that. You can see our tornado parameters do come up a little bit here this afternoon in southeastern parts of Alabama, maybe even the Florida Panhandle, and then heading into Georgia, but it's a very small window at this point. And then as I take you over into the Carolinas tomorrow, you can see, again, not a lot of wind shear, not a lot of instability, but a very marginal chance for something in eastern North Carolina tomorrow, mainly from about 2 to about 6 in the afternoon, and then things are going to head offshore after that. Here's a look at rain totals across the southeast, and we're already getting it in Louisiana, but we continue to get heavy rain focused along where our low-pressure system is tracking. Generally speaking, 2 to 3 inches of rain, maybe locally more in this portion of the Carolinas, and certainly across this portion of Alabama, we could even see as much as 5 or 6 inches of rain. So localized flooding will be a possibility. I don't think we're talking widespread flooding. Amounts do come down as you get farther towards the coastline of South Carolina, Georgia, and of course the Florida Peninsula. We're not going to just see that much rain out of this system, but it is coming. And then behind this system, I do want to show you what's happening afterwards. So the cold shot comes in Thursday and Friday. Another storm hits the northwest here, even California on Thursday. So we could even see rain down in the areas that are getting lake effects Santa Ana winds today. We could see a little bit of rain in the LA area, mountain snow here Thursday afternoon. But the next push comes in behind it over the weekend. So 2 bigger storms to track. We'll have one moving across the plains into the east here later this upcoming weekend. And then the following system right behind it. And then the weather pattern stays active, but there's no real shot of major cold coming between now and Christmas. This is really about it. So again, we'll take what we can get. If you do want to see cold and snow, go up to Quebec, and up to Labrador, we're going to see on the order of maybe 100 centimeters of snow over the next 6 days. Here's a look at those temperatures real quick, just to give you all an idea what the GFS is showing. The warmth gets wiped out quickly here by tomorrow. The cold comes down here right through Thursday and Friday. Then we rebound again over the weekend. It's still a little cool in the Northeast, but it is definitely rebounding by Sunday. And then next week, I wouldn't call it blowtorch, but we're definitely going to see mild weather, especially by the middle of next week. But it will be in transition again to some cooler weather at the end of next week and into next weekend. And if we're looking ahead towards Christmas time, unfortunately, those of us who really want to see the cold are not going to see it. Most of the country should be above average for Christmas Day. There are certainly some possibilities we could get storms that bring us cloud cover and cooler temperatures somewhere in here. But overall, I think we're going to continue that mild pattern right on through Christmas and into the majority of the holidays. And of course, we'll talk about that more as confidence increases here in the coming weeks. I hope you all have a great Tuesday. I'll be back tomorrow. Then I'm going to be traveling for work. So I hope everybody stays safe and healthy. And I want to give all the honor and glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. James 1:16 through 18, King James Version, says, "Do not err, my beloved brethren. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Of his own he will begat he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures." And this is the season of gift given, and every good gift comes from above. It wouldn't be without Jesus. It wouldn't be Christmas without Jesus, first of all. But just want to make you all aware that we are a blessed nation. We are blessed folks, and there are lots of gifts every day that I think it's very easy to maybe forget or just not have on your minds. But the fact that you get to live another day and get to be a blessing to other people is a huge blessing. And none of that would be possible if it weren't for the sacrifices made through Jesus Christ so that we can live eternally for those of us who have chosen to accept Jesus and be saved. And that is the good news I wanted to share with you today. So I'll be back on tomorrow. Hope everyone has a great night. See you soon.